It's just kind of who I am. I want to pour into my team as much as possible, and I'm pretty in tune with my body. I can read a room pretty well, and so when I see we're lacking a little bit, you got to step up. But if we're good, you're just there to encourage and give people confidence.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today, I have another exciting and highly interesting video for you. And if you're a true Caitlin Clark fan, you're definitely going to want to watch this one all the way to the end. Before we get started, let me know you're part of the Clark Update Army by commenting CC 100% below. I always enjoy seeing all the amazing Clark fans in the comments. Now, without wasting any more time, let's get straight into today's video. There has been a major shift in the world of women's basketball. For once, it didn't happen on the court. The sports world took notice when it was revealed that Caitlin Clark had officially signed a multi-year contract with NBC Universal to serve as a special contributor for its basketball coverage. This was much more than a typical sponsorship deal. The media narrative shifted in a negative direction. Clark clearly showed the world that she can remain one of the biggest figures in sports without needing the approval of the WNBA or taking part in its new and unprecedented off-season league. However, one player decided to break ranks as the WNBA establishment responded with its usual silence. Phoenix Mercury player Sophie Cunningham, who is often portrayed as an antagonist in Clark's story, appears to have had enough of the pretense. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 85% of viewers still haven't subscribed. It's free and only takes a second, but it means a lot to us. So, have you subscribed already? Great! Thank you so much for your support. Now, let's get back to the video. Cunningham has criticized what she sees as hypocrisy that is hurting the league from the inside through a series of actions and comments that have largely gone unnoticed by mainstream media. She is highlighting the internal politics, financial mistakes, and jealousy that could be putting the sport's biggest opportunity at risk. To understand why Sophie Cunningham is becoming increasingly frustrated, you first need to understand the importance of what Caitlin Clark just did. For years, the rules for WNBA players were basically set in stone. The league does not pay enough for a superstar to live comfortably. So, after the season, players travel overseas to Russia, Turkey, or China to earn a living. More recently, players have faced pressure to participate in league-approved off-season camps. Clark rejected the traditional path and chose a different direction. She is set to make her debut at Madison Square Garden and appear on Sunday Night Football and Big Ten Saturday night broadcasts after joining NBC Universal. However, she won't be sweating over a loose ball while wearing a jersey. She will be sitting near celebrities like Carmelo Anthony and Vince Carter while dressed in a blazer. No female basketball player has ever reached this level of mainstream inclusion so early in her career. She is presenting herself as an equal to some of the biggest male athletes in the world, while also being a WNBA player. Additionally, the WNBA league office's silence says a lot. They understand that they are losing control over her. Sophie Cunningham is responding directly to that uncomfortable silence. The attention surrounding the new unrivaled league provides the setting for this latest development. Breanna Stewart and Nafi Sakalir, two major stars and high-ranking officials in the WNBA Players Association, created this 3-on-3 competition. They reportedly offered Clark more than $1 million in league shares and a contract structure similar to Lionel Messi's Miami deal as part of their strong effort to recruit her. There was significant pressure behind the scenes. A narrative developed suggesting that Clark wasn't supporting the sisterhood if she refused to join. It was expected that she would use her popularity to help increase the league's revenue. The established groups became extremely frustrated when Clark declined and chose NBC instead. They viewed the decision as a betrayal. However, the situation takes a different turn at this point. Having seen how the industry works, Sophie Cunningham understands the decision as a smart business move. Cunningham recognizes the potential conflict of interest within Unrivaled. When active players operate a league while also pressuring additional players to join, it creates an unusual and uncomfortable power dynamic. By refusing that pressure, Clark showed that she could not simply be bought or intimidated. For the past year, the media has tried to create a bitter rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. In an effort to portray Cunningham as the enforcer sent to embarrass the rookie, they repeatedly show footage of their physical encounters, trash talk, and hard screens. There is no doubt that Sophie is a tough and physical player. But away from the court, Sophie is also one of the league's more business-minded players. Cunningham was one of the few people who remained honest while other veterans were busy criticizing Clark on podcasts or claiming that she wasn't as talented as people believed. Cunningham also openly acknowledged during the charter flight controversy that Caitlin Clark was the main reason the players were no longer traveling on commercial flights. She challenged the idea that the league's improvements were happening entirely on their own. When credit was deserved, she gave it. The latest frustration appears to come from a league that is comfortable benefiting from the money and attention Clark generates, while failing to give her the level of respect she believes she deserves. Cunningham is essentially asking, "Are you guys serious?" As she looks around the dressing rooms, she sees the new TV deals, the sold-out venues, and the chartered flights, and she knows exactly who helped write the check. Cunningham's response to the NBC News is important because of this. Her frustration is what the media wants her to show. They want to hear her say that Clark doesn't deserve the NBC job, but Cunningham refuses to give them that. Instead, the system and its critics become the targets of her reaction. She understands that all boats rise with the tide. When the season begins, more people will watch the WNBA if Caitlin Clark becomes a major media figure on NBC. Cunningham is exposing the short-sighted thinking of resentful players. She seems to be saying, "Let her get the bag because that bag eventually benefits us too." Veterans typically maintain a code of silence, and this moment breaks from that pattern even when some of their views may be wrong. WNBA players generally stand together publicly. Cunningham is challenging that approach to support common sense, and that is a significant move in the highly divided world of the WNBA. Let's examine Cunningham's unintentional exposure of the mean girl culture in greater detail. Legends like Sheryl Swoopes, who has been accused of trying to remove Clark's records from the history books by presenting disputed statistics, have made comments. During the Team USA selection process, we witnessed the unpleasant freeze-outs. Clark appears to be facing a very real energy that says, "You can't sit with us." By accepting the NBC offer, Clark didn't simply find a new table, she essentially bought the entire restaurant. It seems that Cunningham is one of the few people who finds the irony amusing. Cunningham is out there living her best life, seemingly unaffected by Clark's success, while other players are posting cryptic messages about loyalty and the grind on social media. Her attitude serves as a clear reminder of how small the rest of the league can appear in comparison. Sophie's refusal to join the hate train is often what triggers these reactions. She talks about the game. She talks about business. But she refuses to belittle the young player who is helping cover the league's expenses. Money speaks, and Caitlin Clark is making plenty of noise right now. Since this is what really fuels the jealousy Cunningham is highlighting, we have to look at the numbers. In the WNBA, the highest compensation is roughly $250,000. Even though the Super League was offering strong pay, the physical work was still required, playing basketball at a Miami training camp, taking the risk of injury, and putting in the effort. According to reports, Clark doesn't have to put her body through that and could receive a huge payment from the NBC deal, which would likely exceed her WNBA salary. She gets the opportunity to build her brand while sitting in a studio and analyzing the game she loves. Cunningham understands the value in this because she has had to fight for every contract she has earned. When she sees other players acting as though Clark owes them something, her frustration comes through. During the off-season, Clark managed to earn millions without putting additional wear on her body. That's not a betrayal. It's the blueprint. Rather than making disparaging remarks, Cunningham is essentially telling the other players to pay attention. Cunningham has avoided the darker side of this situation. The president and vice president of the Players Association helped establish Unrivaled. There are rumors and whispers, of course, along with speculation that some players are under significant political pressure to join the league in order to support the union leadership's commercial interests. Clark risked upsetting the union's leaders by refusing. This situation is complicated. Cunningham, who has always been an independent thinker, likely recognizes the contradiction. If union representatives are also Clark's employers during the offseason, How can they truly act in her best interests? It's a complicated web of disagreements. Cunningham often suggests that the public story is different from the private politics when she talks about being honest. She understands that Clark's decision to reject Unrivaled involved more than scheduling. It is also about freedom. Cunningham values that freedom as well. The league's separate locker rooms have been the subject of rumors and reports throughout the year. There are traditionalists who believe the game was fine before Clark arrived, while Clark supporters are mainly younger players or business-minded veterans who understand the bigger vision. Sophie Cunningham is in a unique position. She has experience in the established system and has built a reputation for being tough. But she is not willing to ignore what she sees. Her comments disrupt the echo chamber in the locker room. During interviews, she challenges the tactics of those who want to see Clark fail while refusing to encourage racial or generational conflict. She is showing that you do not have to be a bitter critic away from the court to remain a tough competitor on it. Cunningham has repeatedly challenged the responsibility of the media to present the full story. The Sophie hates Caitlyn narrative can be profitable for networks like ESPN and social media aggregators. They post a clip of a hard foul without the surrounding context and add bad blood to the caption. However, look at what happens after the whistle. Look at the handshakes after the game. There is clearly mutual respect between them. Cunningham is taking back control of her own image through her recent pushback against these narratives. She will not allow herself to become a tool in a media-driven attack on Clark. By refusing to play the antagonist in coverage surrounding NBC News, she disrupts the story the media wants to create. They wanted her to be frustrated about Clark receiving additional airtime. Instead, she is focusing on herself and preparing for the season. That response effectively supports Clark's decision because players understand the value of another player's opportunity. The league has traditionally controlled the major cards. It controls the exposure, scheduling, and fines. However, Clark now has a platform with NBC that could potentially reach an audience larger than the WNBA itself. The most watched program in America is Sunday Night Football. If Clark discusses a WNBA concern during that broadcast, millions of viewers could hear it. Her platform is no longer completely controlled by the league, and that is something established executives may find concerning. Sophie Cunningham understands the importance of that power because she has already dealt with league politics and officiating issues. Her support for athletes having the right to maximize their value is consistent with Clark's decision. The idea that players should simply submit to the league is causing Cunningham to speak out. She represents the modern athlete, bold, confident, stylish, and self-aware. Rather than feeling jealous, she feels justified when she sees Clark using her influence. If players have the confidence to use that leverage, it proves just how much power they actually have. The major issue that cannot be ignored is the racial element surrounding much of the conversation about Clark. Some have argued that her demographic background is the main reason for her popularity, while others claim that the criticism she receives is motivated by race. It has created a toxic and deeply divided discussion. This has placed Sophie Cunningham directly in the middle of the controversy, and she is often accused of targeting Clark. However, by keeping her attention on basketball, Cunningham has repeatedly pushed back against these racial narratives. She often rejects these social arguments through her outspoken reactions. Instead of treating Clark as a symbol, she sees her simply as a basketball player. By ignoring the noise and focusing on the business side and the actual game, Cunningham exposes the absurdity of critics who remain focused on identity politics. All she wants to do is play basketball and get paid. She sees Clark approaching the situation in much the same way. Does the league lose some of its appeal now that Clark is gone? Most likely, the people running the organization understand exactly what that means. That is where the frustration comes from. To secure television rights and maintain ticket sales, they depended heavily on the Caitlyn Clark effect. Without her, they are simply another developing sports league. Cunningham recognizing this reality is important. She understands that the economics become much more difficult without the league's biggest attraction. When she hears other players criticizing Clark, she may become frustrated because she knows those same players wanted Clark in their league to help increase attention and, ultimately, their earnings. That is the definition of hypocrisy. Please come and save our business, even though we don't like you. Cunningham is too smart to overlook that contradiction without rolling her eyes. As we look toward the upcoming WNBA season, the situation has changed. With the backing of a major media company, Clark will return to the Indiana Fever, not only as a young point guard entering another season, but also with a role connected to NBC broadcasting. Her position has become much stronger. The period of hazing and dismissing her influence is coming to an end. She has already won the battle. Sophie Cunningham understands this. Her way of responding to this new reality is through her outspoken approach and her refusal to take part in unnecessary pettiness. Get on board or get left behind. That is the message she appears to be sending to the rest of the league. Players who continue to hold resentment are fighting a battle that may already be lost. In this story, Sophie Cunningham was supposed to be the antagonist. The media presented her as the rival, the physical enforcer, and the enemy. But following Caitlin Clark's major NBC development, Cunningham has become something much more interesting, a truth-teller. While Clark chose to turn down their 3-on-3 league opportunity in favor of the greater exposure offered by network television, the rest of the WNBA appears to be waiting and watching. Cunningham has simply been honest. She has exposed what she sees as the hypocrisy of a league that dislikes Clark's influence while still benefiting from the money and attention she generates. The conflicting narratives and questionable business decisions around her have caused Cunningham to speak out. By doing so, she has shown that she is not Clark's enemy. She is simply a competitor who respects the work and the impact that Clark has created. The game has changed because of Caitlin Clark, and it appears that Sophie Cunningham is one of the few players willing to say that openly. The WNBA has a choice. They have two options. They can listen to Sophie, put their pride aside, and recognize the remarkable opportunity developing right in front of them, or they can continue holding on to resentment. However, considering the history and dynamics surrounding this league, it seems the drama is only beginning.